Last week, the competitors of the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship found themselves with a last-minute high-speed play date. Due to issues with updates to iRacing, putting a number of their connections at risk, the start time closed, and what was decided, the races set for Road Atlanta would be non-point status, with the event being rerun for full points tonight. So everyone got a freebie practice round, and they made the most of it. Not needing to worry about championship scenarios and big picture strategy, the racing was as spicy and aggressive as it could be. But tonight, the demands of both the championship battle and the challenges of one of the most daunting tracks in the world will jolt them back to reality. The penultimate round of the season will be held on a track that drivers both cherish and fear, whose mention brings both a broad smile and a sharp intake of breath. Hi all, I'm Greg Creamer, and along with Kyle Heyer, welcome to round 9 of 10 and the breathtaking Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And Kyle, it's not often that drivers in a championship essentially get a mulligan.
Yeah, this is like we saw the whole trailer and it was feature length last week, but tonight we get to do it all over again and we get to watch the real movie this time. Points racing on the line, Greg. The season is almost coming to a close. We're going to get to redo last week. That's a good thing for Jordan Rick-Segrini, who found himself crashed in that non-points race very early on, so he gets a new lease on life, but it also gives opportunity for drivers like Nicholas Rice-Buto and Caleb Patry to undo the sins of last week. So this is a great new opportunity. Yeah. Get some points on the night and then head into the last round at VIR, all cylinders firing.
Well, what was interesting, too, to me was that race last week. Yes, there weren't any points on the line, and if you had an issue, okay, it wasn't going to hurt you that bad in the points championship. But for one guy in particular, to me, Camden Hibbett, what a confidence-building event that was. Since we've seen him join that multi-car team, the PRG team, you've talked about it with every race. It just seems like he's a little more confident. At that race last week, he put in 2 absolutely stellar races, and I think heading into these final 2 races of the championship, where he is well placed in the points, coming in second, only 23 points behind Nicholas Rice-Buto, his confidence right now, I think, could be pinging. I think that was a great opportunity for this young, very talented driver.
That confidence is going to be key tonight, Greg. Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, this place is so fast and so fun. We talked about it last week. About 2.5 miles and 12 corners. Wild elevation changes here, but this place is an absolute roller coaster, and that confidence you mentioned is key to going fast around Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Yeah, as you can see, there's very little places here where there's actually a straight line where you can just relax, from the last turn 12, but you're, at full chat, hanging on for dear life down through turn 12, and then you're thinking about that high-speed blast through turn 1, and look how abrupt the elevation changes are, and then all the way from turn 1 to 5, constant change of direction. Kyle, coming out of 5, it's still not really straight because you're shifting to the other side, and that straight's a lot shorter than it looks. The bank turn 6, and the most important turn on the track with all these iconic, glorious corners, the one that certainly looks the most boring, without doubt, turn 7, the most important.
Yeah, turn 7, absolutely critical because it leads on to that monolithic back straightaway. Turns 8 and 9, not really corners at all, leading down to maybe your best passing opportunity. Turns 10A and 10B. Do a crossover there, down the hill at turn 11 and back to turn 12. Another high commitment corner. It's flat out in these cars, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And it came down to turn 12 a couple of times last week in that non-points event. So we're going to get to see that all over again. Qualifying is underway, Greg, and some familiar names up at the top of the order. And one name in particular is missing this week, Greg, that, he's missing it for a good reason.
About as good as it gets, and that, of course, is our 3-time champion, Morgan Burkhardt, who is at Sebring in person right now, as he will be once again racing with the Victor Gonzalez race team in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race here. And as we are watching the cars right now, there's a big development there with that team, with Morgan's program, but it's really because of Full Send Sims that this big development is happening. At this point, we are now ready to announce, and this is a beauty, folks, Full Send Sims is now an official sponsor of the Victor Gonzalez race team. And there you can see the back of the jackets. There's the logo now that is on the side of those cars, pretty prominently placed as well. So Full Send Sims now continuing its growth and stepping into real world racing as a sponsor of that series, or I should say that team in that series, and also continuing, of course, to be the primary and title sponsor of this championship. So great things coming for Full Send Sims, and it's great to have the tie-in with Full Send Sims, Morgan Burkhardt in that real-life series, and in this iRacing series. That's pretty cool, Kyle.
It's really neat to see that logo on the side of that Hyundai Elantra N TCR, and it would be kind of fun to race some TCRs here someday in the Full Send Sims series. Really enjoy that. We get to see Morgan in his natural habitat in the Elantra N. That'd be a lot of fun. But as we mentioned, qualifying is underway. We talked about the drivers, the familiar faces up at the front, including this driver, Jordan Rick-Segrini, Greg, up at the top of the order, and this is the race that counts. Camden Hibbett up to second place, though, in qualifying just now.
Yeah, it's really churning here. I mean, Nicholas Rice-Puto is right up in there. Caleb Patry back where we're pretty confident he should belong. The 123, James Newell, up there as well. And let's keep in mind that Jordan Rick-Segrini, after problems getting, crashed in that first race last week, came back and put on a spectacular pass around the outside in turn 10B up under the bridge at turn 11. For the win. It was absolutely spectacular, and talk about a confidence builder for him as well, and that's just what he needed coming into these final couple of rounds here, considering that he led the first third of the championship rather handily and then has had some struggles. Now he's back at it. He comes in only 1 point behind Camden Hibbett, third in the points, only 24 adrift of our point leader, Rice-Puto. And, there's 4 races left in this championship, so they are getting absolutely crucial here. You've got to be thinking championship points right now. If you're really up in the top and looking at the numbers at this, if you're up into the top 5 or 6 in points, you're still in this mathematically.
Absolutely, and we know Road Atlanta can really turn things on its head, and so can VIR. That's a very challenging racetrack that is high consequence, just like this place is. You can absolutely hit things in a big way here, and with the starts, we saw some carnage last week in the opening couple of corners, so just getting through this night is not going to be enough to win a championship. For some of those drivers will have to be aggressive, but that aggression can come back to bite you. Olivier Piatek goes up to provisional pole there with a 1:41.070. That's a tenth and a half quicker than Jordan Rick-Segrini.
That's a really solid lap for him, and we know he's quick, but that margin, as you said, unusually big in this category, and certainly here at Road Atlanta. And you talked about it. This track, to me is one of the most mentally taxing anywhere because of those constant changes of direction blended with the consequence. You have an off here, usually it's going to be pretty big, and then of course that's a result of just blinding speed. Now, in these cars, you're sort of speed limited a little bit just by the power of the car, and you can carry huge amounts of roll speed through the corners. But you think about the prototypes racing here and how fast they get around this track. This place is special on a lot of different levels. It's always been one of my favorites, and when I was racing, I just loved racing here.
Yeah, we talked last week a bit about the changes to the back straightaway section that leads into what is now 10A and 10B, and just beyond the concrete barriers on the right there, you can see the tunnel that heads under the racetrack. But before that was put in, the racetrack dropped to the street level of what is now underneath the tunnel, and there was the old gravity cavity. I still think it's the best named part of any road course in the world. Name me a cooler sounding area of a racetrack than gravity cavity, Greg.
Yeah, no, you can't. It was also called the dip, and it was like, gravity cavity, a lot better. But it was exactly that, because when you would come over what is that bend in turn 9, now it drops and then flattens out in air. It just plummeted. You'd get massive compression down. I mean, you're looking at the top of the tunnel. Remember, a semi can drive through there. So that underside, that's down a bit, and you'd plummet all the way down there, get massive compression, and then it was this light bend to the left, and then you just be flat chat all the way through there and then up under the bridge in turn 11, and your apex point was essentially the bridge abutment to the right side of that corner. There's a curb that's still underneath there, and if your right front tire wasn't nicking that curb, you can see it right there. If you weren't nicking that curb through there, you weren't fast. It was one daunting place. So when something went wrong there, you were getting funneled into these two bridge abutments. It was brutally dangerous, but boy, did it step. There's that curb. You can see it there. And you literally had to have your right front tire on that. And well, I'll tell you, when it went wrong, it was nasty. But the great drivers that can just compartmentalize and put fear in that other part of their body until the race was done, it was spectacular to watch. Insanely dangerous, but man, was it incredible.
Yeah, the good news is the corner they replaced it with provides a lot of overtaking opportunity. So while the previous corner certainly has some fascinating history, the current corner, I think, probably lends itself a bit easier to overtaking, which we saw last week and we're going to see this week. But, Greg, as I mentioned in the intro there, we saw the trailer. It was feature length. Did we see everybody's tricks already last week, and is that going to help the drivers that are leading come into the white flag, that they've kind of already gotten a preview of what's to come?
Well, I think that's possible, and the other part of it is that there were those that just were out there just throwing caution to the wind, being uber aggressive and all that. But there were others clearly who were studying. They weren't so worried about going, okay, if I don't win, it's okay. If I learn, okay, where do I need to be on the last lap? What's the best opportunity for me? We saw a number of people coming down here into turn 10. Do you want to be in the lead? And if so, do you want to be center track? Do you want to be outside, and hope they dive underneath you, then run wide at the exit at 10A? All those things we were seeing, people working on those different chess moves in a race that didn't have any consequence if the one you were practicing didn't really work. And I think that is something that we can see play out here. And as the checkered flag drops on qualifying, Olivier Piatek, nice to see, getting himself a pole, and not the first one he's had, second one on the year here, but absolutely great time to be getting it here, as he is looking to finish strong here. But Rick Zagrini, Camden Hibbett, Rice Pudo, Soto, all those guys are still in this points championship.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun fight to watch. 20-minute races here. We've got two of them on tap here, about 12 laps apiece. And they're going to start in just a moment's time. We will have a full pace lap to get tires and everything warmed up. Now, there's one minor difference that the new Tempest weather system that was launched last week will change. We're not going to get wet weather, at least not yet with this particular car. But what drivers do have at their disposal, Greg, is they actually have a little bit of a forecast that they can look at before they jump on the racetrack. They also have the ability to cue the spotter for updates on what the weather is going to do. Now, it's obviously not going to get wet, but that might still be useful to know when the clouds are coming and when the track might grip up, or if it's going to continue to get hotter and hotter, because you might make a decision on how hard to push if you know the track's going to climb 15-20 degrees by the end.
Well, absolutely. That's really invaluable, and that's a real world tool as well, where you look at things and go, okay, a little bit more cautious early here, make sure you save some tire. Right now, that track temp at 98 degrees, ambient 72, not too bad for this track. That can climb and be a lot hotter, so it doesn't look too bad right now. And before we go green, of course, we have to say a huge thanks to all of our sponsors. First and foremost, always Full Send Sims. Kurt Schmidt and the remarkable sims that he builds, combining his military sim training and building with his real-world racing experience. And again, helping Morgan Burkhardt now into the real-world racing. Absolutely fantastic news coming out here. Great job by Court. We also have, of course, 3P Logistics. They have been on board from the get-go here, and full logistical support for you, your family, your race car, from booking flights all the way to your full travel services. They'll take care of you, as well as trackside support and race car storage maintenance. And Final Turn Motorsports, also right with us from the beginning, doing full service prep shop, trackside support, dyno tuning, Miata tranny builder, all kinds of things here that they will take care of for you. And Wine Country Motorsports, they've been the racer's resource for helmets, suits, gloves, shoes, seats, and harnesses for over 30 years. So they are well embedded in it. And one thing I wanted to point out, with our sort of change in our schedule here. With this race now being the penultimate round, we're going to run 1 week longer than originally anticipated. And next Tuesday night will be Virginia International Raceway in the season finale. The school, actually, they just went ahead and ran it as scheduled last week. It just ran it for Road Atlanta, so anybody that wanted to take that school could. In talking with Court a little bit earlier today, he said if we get enough interest, we'll happily, this Thursday night, run a school for VIR. So if you guys, anybody looking to run a school at VIR, let them know. If they get enough takers, it's a month.
Good to know. Also, one other changes that iRacing did last week is they've actually given the pace car some more instruction, so it can now properly speed up and slow down for corners. Before it just held a constant speed all the way around the racetrack. Now it's got a little bit more skill than that, which is cool to see as it gears up to take the field racing here in just a moment's time. Right, quick run down the starting lineup. Olivier Piatek, Jordan Rixigrini on the front row. Then it's Camden Hibbett and Nicholas Rice-Budo in row number 2.
Row number 3 is going to be Josh Soto and Caleb Patry. Row 4 will be James Newell. Great qualifying effort for James and Dean Dibdahl.
And row 5 is Andrew Gillen, the number 91. Strong effort for him for the start of this race. Trace Hant starts 10th in the 53.
11th will be Andrew Wozencroft, number 80. Jorge Ortiz in the number 311 starts 12.
In 13th place, it's Rocco Pasquarella, and alongside him, Deacon Greenfield rolls off 14th in the number 20.
And starting in the 15th spot, the 042 is Seth Spolman, and next to him will be the number 89, Jim Friedhofer.
And the rest of the starting lineup will scroll along the bottom of your screen. 28 cars strong for the penultimate round of the season for the Full Send Sims Spec Miata Series as the field comes up over the crest. It's Jordan Rixigrini alongside, well, Olivier Piatek did not take the grid, Greg. So Camden Hibbett has moved up to the front row. That's big news and big drama for a driver that was supposed to start on the front row. Green flag.
Absolutely, we are green, and let's see what Camden Hibbett can do. We talked about his confidence, and what an opportunity for him. Here we go, streaming into turn 1, 3 abreast, so close there, couple of cars. So far, no major touches. It looked like now everybody thinking about whether you're in the championship or whether you're alongside somebody who is. Everybody looked like they gave each other a little bit more room. But there's Piatek at the very back of the pack. I wonder if he had to start from pit lane, and that could be a result of penalty points. Don't know, but boy, he's got work to do.
Yeah, that's a long list of cars ahead of him that he's going to have to pass.
Yes, it is.
But if anybody can do it, he's one of the drivers that can. He's got 20 minutes, now just 19 minutes, 11 seconds to do it. Rixigrini, Hibbett, Rice-Budo, your top 3. Little look back here in the pack. Dean Dibdahl has Rocco Pasquarella up the inside at turn 6. The 95 car takes the overtake.
Yeah, and watching those guys right behind him, you see Andrew Wozencroft looking for any opportunity here out of that key turn 7. Andrew gets down to the inside. It looked like he was able to pull the trigger really aggressively, but now he's off to the side like that. Unless he's just got a monster run out of that corner, he's going to lose touch. Now, smartly tucks in, as you said, behind Pasquarella, and now getting opportunity. And up front, Hibbett tucks in behind Jordan Rixigrini. Looked like he had the mojo there, but then decided not to try the big pass.
Yeah, I think last week we saw this be a pretty exciting race for the entire 12 laps in 20 minutes, mostly because there was nothing really to lose. There absolutely is things on the line now, so we'll probably see a bit more patience, a bit more calmness from those, especially at the front. Not back here, though. How about 3 abreast through turn 12, Greg? That didn't work, and Wozencroft backed out, thought better of it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a smart move because Pasquarella got pitched to the inside, and Wozencroft was right behind him. Now Pasquarella is just going to dive to the apex, but Dibdahl actually had the quicker line down that straight and into turn 1, and is still in front of Pasquarella. And that's what we're talking about. With these momentum cars, and a beautiful move to the inside there by the number 72, Jordan Butler, just surprising Jose de las Casas and picking the spot up as we go back to these guys, as he's now starting to ease away just a little bit. But this track and these cars, such a momentum track, and that's what we're talking about when you pitch your line a little bit in a momentum car that's by design a bit underpowered. It can really be costly at corner exit. So you got to open this up and everything. I'll tell you what, too, before you talked about how turn 10A and 10B, when they replaced the gravity cavity, it created a much better passing zone because it was tough through there. You look at the rest of the track, prior to putting in 10A, 10B, this place was brutal to pass on because the entry speeds everywhere were so good, and the only slow tight corner, if you will, was turn 7. The last place you want to make a pass because you're going to be slow out of there as well. And look at that pretty move by Camden Hibbett. Just calm as can be, picks up the point.
Yeah, he gave up some ground on exit.
10A. Yep.
Shot to the rear bumper from Jordan Rick-Segrini. Didn't want to take the run to go back by him there, but Hibbett clears the 108 for the top spot. Rice Budo sits third, then Soto and Patry fourth and fifth. Let me tell you, Caleb Patry is a driver that could use a bit of a reversal of fortune here. He has just had a very tough season. So has Piatek, by the way, but this 998 in particular has found that thing upside down in a tire bundle in the grass more times than not, and I think he'd just like to get a solid top 5 in tonight.
Yeah, and you think about the last few seasons in 2023. One of the title contenders in a few of those seasons. So really, struggling a little bit. Nice to have him back in form. And Jorge Ortiz driving a good race in the early going here as well, right behind him in that number 311. And you can see he started in the 12th spot. He's already up to 6th and putting the pressure on Caleb at this point already. Looks to the inside here into turn 6. A little bit too far back. Recognize that and just lets Caleb turn back through.
He was trying to bait Caleb into going for the blocker, leaving a lane open. Caleb's a little wide, drops the tire on the exit of the corner. So does Trace Hance in the rear view. It's a little ways back to Michael Lauren in the 133. He's got his own train of cars. Deacon Greenfield in the 20, Dean Dibdahl, Rocco Pasquarella, and more.
Yeah, notice up in front, there's that gap. There's that sort of teal-colored car. I think that is young Andrew Gilliland, who is racing very stoutly right now as well, putting on a really, really good run here and staying right up at the sharp end. Actually, he's in that darker blue car, Andrew is, and it's Trace Hance right behind him, putting the pressure. And you can see he gets Andrew a little wide at the apex there, and Deacon Greenfield fighting it. Oh, first bit of contact we've seen. Oh, Deacon saves it, but Dibdahl gets pounded.
Yeah, just a big stack up in there. I don't think they're quite done yet. The 72 of Jordan Butler is going to immediately dive for pit lane. Go back and look at this again because there was a lot happening in one corner. Greenfield and Lauren, I think, come together, and then it was just a stack up from there.
Yeah, I mean, you see, it looks like Greenfield's through. He thinks he's cleared, and then Lauren alongside, they touch. And it looked like maybe Dibdahl had backed off thinking they're going to wreck and then got collected. Let's watch it here. He just turned in and got turned pretty significantly right there by Rocco Pasquarella.
Yeah, and Andrew Wozencroft had I don't know if you could call it a great view. I don't think he would agree that it was great, but here's what he saw out the front windshield here through 10B.
Here's the hit. He escapes it, going wide here, and the guy absolutely unsighted, had nowhere to go, was the number 1 of Jose De Las Casas, who had worked his way up near the top 10 and got collected.
So he will drop all the way down to 22nd now, and Butler came to pit lane, but he's already returned to the racetrack. Back, by the way, up for 8th place. Gilliland and Hance are going back at it again. I think maybe having a disagreement over which of these cars is going to lead the charge back to 7th place, James Newell.
Yeah, absolutely, and a smart move there, Gilliland. He recognized, all right, Trace just had a little bit more pace on him. He ducked in and got the draft here back up front. That yellow and white machine of Rick Segrini comes through, and you can see every time you protect a little bit into 10A, by the time you get to the exit point of 10B, you've lost a lot of momentum. And Josh Soto getting an absolutely superb run. Well, that's a 0-3, excuse me, of Rice Budo. And just watch that play out. Read it perfectly, ducks underneath Hibbett, and right up into the 2nd spot. And remember, right now, Rice Budo comes in here with a 23-point margin ahead in the point. So crucial for him to have a good finish. Doesn't have to win it, Kyle, but can't lose a ton of points here.
No, he's doing a good job protecting, and really the best thing he can do is finish on the podium the next couple of races. That would, you're never guaranteed anything, but it certainly leave you in a pretty tough spot to get taken down come VIR next week. But about halfway through this race, or closing in on it next time by, and Rick Segrini, Rice Budo, Hibbett have been the persistent top 3, maybe not in that particular order, but Josh Soto has been up in the mix, quietly lurking inside this top 5, and so has Jorge Ortiz. So once those front 3 start to scrap, and it's not an if, but a when, look out for the 77 and 311.
Well, you can see what's already happened with, some of just that little bit of protecting down into 10A from this group up front between Rick Zagrini, Rice Puto, Hibbett. It has allowed Soto, Ortiz, Patry to glom onto them. And I think even James Newell in the 123 at the back of this queue. It's just all because of this. All these little, moves, these little cut and thrust moves here, ends up somebody protecting a little bit, and you're just a little slower coming out of these two turns, that quick left-right, and everybody able to just get right back onto it here. And that's why we've got this great battle here. And looking farther in the back, here's a big lunge. We got two abreast in two different cars here. That's Court Schmidt, and having a great duel at the 95 of a recovering Pasquarella.
Yeah, Court Schmidt started back in 20th, so he's moved forward here, side by side with Pasquarella, who's gone slightly rearward, 13th now down to 16th. They're still side by side. You see Pasquarella jump on the binders there just to clear himself so he can turn in and do this in turn one. Over-under on the curb, Greg. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, that would have been a great move, but he just got too much curve. You can see it unloaded the car. He threw some dirt up in the air, and it just nulled all of that momentum. Oh, now really, really good pressure here by Richard Sawicki on Court Wagner. So he dives down, fighting Court Wagner. I did it again, Court Schmidt, and he gets down. But look at Court fighting back, staying to the outside. Sawicki has no option, and he's going to have now Pasquarella alongside. They're going to be side by side all the way into turn 6. This is not an easy one to settle here, and I think Sawicki realized that, just breathed a little bit, tucked in behind, and settled in behind Pasquarella.
Yeah, that was a great battle there. Rich Green has had trouble and more trouble.
Oh, no.
Got pinged once and then twice. I think it started with his spin and contact into the inside wall, and was there some assistance here? Yes, from the 65 of Hayden Manis, and then backs it into the fence and got hit once he was back on the road. So Rich Green and Raymond Blethyn are also done. Blethyn in a different incident, all in his own.
Wow.
Soto
back into that car looked like a dirt track modified.
It sure did. How did Soto get to the lead? He was third last lap around and leads now.
Well, again, all that little bit of defending here and there, and you get these side-by-side runs, and it can make a big difference. It's just that quick. Look at that. Soto could end up 4th coming out of this turn.
Oh, that's how that happened.
Maybe even 5th. Look at this.
Can't take your eyes off him for 1 second. Side-by-side, Ortiz to second place. Rice Puto off in the dirt there a little bit at the exit of 3, and Hibbett's going to go down there side-by-side with him.
And this is so tough to do. When you're out wide like that, it's so tough to get that back to that apex, or at least, to more than mid-track coming through. And that means you just have to breathe it gently to let it kind of come back to you. And what do you do on a track like this? When you breathe it gently, you kill all your momentum. So that's what makes this so fascinating, Kyle.
Going back to what you said about protecting into 10A and 10B, that was what I was so curious about last week, because no points were on the line. We saw a variety of different things happen down there at 10A, 10B. What line do you defend in? Do you choose to defend 10A, the first of the two corners, or do you take the normal line, the right side of the road, into 10A and then try to just build your run at the exit at 10B? And I said that I've generally seen people take the normal racing line to defend, but it leaves that inside open. So there's so many different ways that the tail end of this race can play out, and we'll see what drivers did their homework on last week's race.
Well, we saw that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Last week, we'd see somebody try that, defend from that normal race line on the far driver's right. And the only way that really works is if you can sucker the guy on inside to carry just that little bit too much speed where he can't get the car properly turned. And that's kind of what Rick Zagrini did, although he was the pursuer. He kind of pinched Morgan a little bit down to the inside and didn't give Morgan. Look at this, side by side, through 1, still there, through 2, and Jorge Ortiz. Wow, what a run he's put in from 12th to the lead here as we are just past the 7.5 minute mark to go here. What a drive by Jorge Ortiz.
Yeah, you couldn't slot a piece of paper between him through the center of 1 and 2. That was very dicey. Fun to watch, though, as Rick Zagrini drops back to second place, Rice Puto to 4th. And what driver is going to linger? I think 3rd is kind of a powerful place to be because of the the ability for that second place car to launch an attack into 10A, 10B. If you can just maintain the perfect distance, you have a shot at the win from third or maybe even fourth. So I think Camden Hibbett might be doing some testing and tuning back here to figure out where to place your car. This is a chess match and you're planning your move. You have to plan your move 5 moves ahead.
Absolutely. And, you remember when we talked to him after last week's race, he said he was indeed trying things. And he said, there was, he tried one thing, it didn't work. And then he jokingly said, and then I was stupid enough to try it again, and it didn't work.
Here we go.
But he learned. But look at this. This is going to be 3 abreast, heading down into turn 10A. And Ortiz, a little bit of a nose ahead and able to turn in, and Hibbett just nowhere to go with it. Look at that loss of momentum. This is what we were talking about. Rice Pudo getting a big push from Soto, and Hibbett is going to get trapped and probably be 5th by the time this all settles here, Kyle.
It's amazing how the hunter can become the hunted so fast. And here comes Rick Segrini up the outside. Maybe he'll try to turn in under Jorge Ortiz there. A little later apex, but I'm not sure he can really build a run in that spot. Turn 3 is a blind corner as well. Or maybe really turn 2 is the blind one, but a little miss there on the curb, and that'll allow Jorge to pull a bit of a gap.
They really are both a little bit blind. I mean, 2, you don't see your turn-in point, and then 3, you don't see the apex curve until you're almost on top of it, and you've got to be all over that curve to make it work. And going back to that attempted pass by Camden, when you're that far down to the inside, the only way that works is you've got to be able to get on the binders, and as you turn into 10A, you literally have to park the car almost mid-track, so that everybody else has to check up suddenly, so you don't just get blown by, like we saw Rick Segrini do in that last lap of the second race last weekend. He read that perfectly and just flew by. So you've got to really make that, just park the car on its nose, be dead center track, and hope people have to scatter behind you.
Grace Hance has broken the gap from Andrew Gilliland. He's caught that main pack as the lead is, oh no, trouble! Rick Segrini hard to the wall. He tags the points leader. Rice Pudo spins down at 10A, and there's big damage to both of those cars.
And that, folks, that is first and third in the points here. And I think Rice Pudo got into Rick Segrini, and then Rick Segrini hit the wall. Oh, there was a tap by Rice Pudo. He bounced then off of Ortiz, came right back across in front and got Rice Pudo again. Watch this here. There's the tap.
Oh, and he saw it coming too. He slammed the brakes, and it was too late. That is just a horrible mistiming of the bumper alignment there, and that was not at all what he intended to do. And it's going to destroy the 108, and the 03 is still running, but a ton of damage on that car.
Yeah, that car has to be awkward at best to be driving right now. And I think he's right behind Piatek, who's, hey, let's give him a shout out, up from starting dead last. He's up into 8th right now. Yeah, he's 3 seconds adrift of Gilliland, and Gilliland is 2 seconds adrift of this battle at the front, but still, what a recovery drive by Olivier Piatek.
And as we just saw, things can get pretty wild up front, so he still could gain a few more spots. So we will have to keep an eye on these front runners here. How about Jorge Ortiz, Josh Soto, Camden Hibbett, and Caleb Patrick? How about James Newell up there in 5th place?
I know, what a run he's putting on here. That's just great to see.
Man, this could be an upset.
Yeah, he's part of Team Barbie. And, which one's Ken? Well, let's leave that alone. Heading down now. And you can see Newell there taking a little bit of a look. And look, is this Hibbett again getting really aggressive down in there?
Took a swipe at
that was Ortiz, actually. We're watching from Newell. And Ortiz, made that move and defended beautifully. But Hibbett, keep in mind now, what, a lap and a half ago, he's 5th.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always wondered why that safety net is plugged into the radio in this car on the bottom right of the screen.
Oh yeah, look at that.
This is an old model for on iRacing side, but yeah, there's a lot of volatility here. We're going to get the 2 to go, and I think you can be 5th and end up 1st at the tail end of the last lap. So we'll see how things happen. Ortiz is in a position. I don't think he's ever won a race in the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series, so this is probably uncharted territory for him. We'll see if he can withstand the pressure from a driver that's snagged a couple victories as of late.
we've seen that, that speed from him, certainly. But I think you're right. I don't recall him actually getting a win at this point. So, yeah, this could be a big one for him. He's only had one top 5. So, yeah, this would be mega if he could pull this off here. And then, the guy who really now, with that contact between Rasputo and certainly Rick Segrini, the big benefactor here is going to be Camden Hibbett. And at this point then, you've got to think that people are telling him, Camden, if you can get the win clean, go for it. But don't risk here. The guys you're trying to race for the points championship are way behind you. This is a big gain for you here. Don't get reckless.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, but he might be at the whim of what everyone else around him is going to do as well. Right. Joshua Soto drives up the inside at 10A, and he's going to slot into second place. Camden Hibbett tried to cross him over, and it's a bit of a logjam there at 10B.
Yep, and Soto, as soon as he got through there, he did kind of what I was talking about. Exited, moved immediately more mid-track, and that caught Hibbett out by surprise, and that slowed that momentum a little bit. And now you can see that it's Ortiz and Soto with a little bit of a gap as the white flag comes out. This is it, last lap, and look at Newell now trying to make the move on Caleb Patry. Couldn't quite get through, and that's going to give Hans an opportunity as Newell had to check up. Hans should have the inside here into turn 3. He does. Newell lets him through. May have been just a little brush there. But those two now are in their own little scrap. You can see they've lost a little bit of touch, and here we go. It's basically 4 for 3 at the sharp end here. And don't count out Hans and Newell if these guys get into a shoving match. But where do you want to be here, Kyle?
Anywhere but the leader. And then Jorge Ortiz is going to have a lot of blocking to do, or a lot of defensive driving to do on the back straightaway. And Soto was really behind the steering through the S's. And Hibbett turns him. Soto goes for a slide.
Oh, man. Stays out of the wall, which is a good thing indeed. But that is going to, look at this now. Yeah, Hibbett now, with that little touch, he obviously got, Soto is now not in front of him. But that little bit of momentum killed Patry. Hans, these guys are coming after him, and none of them are that worried about the points championship. They don't want to wreck anybody, but they're not going to go quietly here. And this is now a big nail-biting defense for Camden Hibbett.
Oh, I thought Patry was going to stay in line. He's not going to go alongside Hibbett, so that will give Camden the opportunity to try to beat Ortiz down the hill. But it was Hibbett tangling with Joshua Soto that's going to allow Jorge Ortiz.
Patry looking at the inside once again, and here we go. Ortiz gets his first win. Hibbett, a great point score in second. Patry, welcome back to the podium there in third. Trace Hansen fourth, a top 5 for Newell. What an absolutely fabulous drive. Andrew Gilliland, Kyle, 6th spot for the young man. And Piatek dead last up into 7th. How about that?
That's a great run for Piatek there, and what an exciting run to the checkers. This is unfortunately the issue that happened at turn 7, and I think this is just drivers in a logjam here, all fighting for similar spots on the racetrack, and I think Hibbett thought he was clear and just tagged the 77.
Yeah, I mean, just brush the back, but watch it from this angle here. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think he was just, I want to stay close, get a good run out of here. And you can see as a result how wide Hibbett ran. Let's watch it from here. I think he thought he was clear. There's the touch. He has to check up so he doesn't get hit. Look how he's a good car length wide to the apex. And that's where I thought now Patry and Hans had a huge opportunity to go by him, but never quite got that point here. Well, they had the opportunity. I think Caleb, mindful of points championship, said, I don't want to get in and wreck him. So Caleb showing some real class there. But here's the other side of the story. Look who's sitting in 8th. Points litter coming in, Nicholas Rasputo. That's big.
Damage control was huge there by the 0-3. That crash could have ended an opportunity to snag a good result. Unfortunately for Rick Segrini, the recipient of that contact, he was not able to finish. He finishes down in, well, he did finish, but down in 23rd place. So it definitely
out of the points.
Yeah, not where Rick Segrini wanted to finish. But Rasputo, damage control on that, grabs 8th, so it's not catastrophic, but it definitely does not help in his ability to go into VIR feeling confident about his lead.
Yeah, it isn't good, and he's got to come out and, obviously, one of the things here starting from the, where you finish, and you have a rough finish like that. Certainly we saw Piatek put on a great drive through the pack, but, now Rick Zagrini has got to do the same just to get in there and to maximize some points. And that's one of the things I've got to say, Kyle. I love this championship, but the idea of you have to start where you finish in race one, I'm not sure that I'm crazy about that. As you're getting a little kitty hug there, and I love it. Hi, Apollo. What do you, do you think, and I don't know, maybe there isn't a way to do this in iRacing, but what about instead of it being where you finish, maybe you go back to qualifying, invert to top 10, and then 11th on back is where you qualified, so that if you have a bad finish, you don't necessarily, if you're in the points championship, end up back in 30th.
Yeah, iRacing gives you some tools to play with inversions and things, but it's definitely an option for the future. But one thing I saw, Greg, is a lot of tentative driving in the early part of the race, but we did see some crashes up at the front, and they were not because of aggression. They were just miscalculations, which is surprising to me because we really got to experiment with over-unders and slicing and dicing last week. So it's not aggression that's been putting cars out. It's just miscalculations. I'm surprised that we've seen them to the extent that we have with the front runners tonight, but something to learn for this next race.
Well, that's it. And I think also, just those little misjudgments of space, I thought I cleared them. I wanted to be close, but I was too close, just tapped them, a la, Hibbett and Soto, those little things. But I did see as well, as you said, again, a lot of people exploring options in this one. And, I think it's going to be a fascinating second race here. We see the draft plays a pretty, substantial role. And just because your speed everywhere here is so fast, it's easy, I think, as a result, isn't it, Kyle? To say, okay, I'm good here, but you got that mile an hour, maybe quicker, that you're not accounting for, and it's just close enough where you give them a little tap. Absolutely.
And we've got about 2.5 minutes left in warm-up, Greg. The big news coming into the night was the new partnership with Full Send Sims and VGRT with Morgan Burkhardt as part of the team. That connection has been made, and really neat to see these decals on the side of this car. They'll be running in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Very exciting news.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You can see that's Victor and Tyler Gonzalez's car. So obviously they're on both team cars because Morgan and his teammate, who have proven to be very quick, are carrying that as well. And this is a top flight team in the Michelin Pilot Challenge TCR category in these Hyundai and TCRs. And they have been on the pace from the get-go. So, great opportunity for Full Send Sims to literally be along for the ride, get some great exposure there. And there's a good reason for that. I mean, the Sims, that court, that they're building are such amazing high-quality Sims with, virtually every category. If you just want a basic entry Sim, they can do that for you. If you want an absolutely top-tier level Sim with full motion and all that, they can do that. And then we talked about it last week, Kyle, that they had just completed a full 1-to-1 build sim for a driver in the MX-5 Cup, where every aspect of that sim absolutely identically matches the layout inside the car, not just in terms of layout, but to pedal pressures and the amount of pull and push on the sequential shifter and all that, so that the driver of that car, when he's in his sim, it feels exactly like it will in his road car. They are capable of doing those builds, and they also, a while ago, Court built a sim inside an old NASCAR Cup chassis. They got the old, the empty shell, built a sim in it for the guy. Well, they can do it all, and the Sims are top tier.
He has not delivered that one to my house yet, Greg, but when he does, I'll let you know.
Exactly.
That's really neat.
Exactly.
We talked to Court about the process of building the simulators, and one of the things that just surprised me was the level of granularity. Right, if your car has floor-mounted pedals versus firewall-mounted pedals, that is something that is important to Court, and he'll make sure that you're matching your real-world car. If that's what you're using the sim for, he'll match it best to your use case. I think that's really, really incredible stuff. So Full Send Sims appreciate their support, as well as the other partners and people that make it all happen. Greg, we're 8 seconds away from gridding up for race number 2, and we're going to do this all over again. And this is now our third to last race of the season as we head into VIR next week.
Yeah, 60 points left, essentially, after the race we just completed. And I love this view because you can see what we're talking about. And that little sort of extra piece of road there over on the left side out of turn 3, that's where the motorcycles run, because they would build so much speed down through those S's, and there's no runoff down at the bottom. If you're on a bike, that's a whole different deal. They don't use that other one anymore, the one that's in now the foreground here. You could see the other one in the background. But if you get it wrong coming through and you're at full chat on a bike, you can see it's a little sketchy, even with air fence. So that's what that's there for. But this is what we're talking about with this constantly changing direction. And it's literally, one of those things here, Kyle, is the old NASCAR, a phrase got, you can get behind in your steering at this track real easy. And, it's like S's anywhere. You think about the SSA at COTA. If you screw something up and you get offline, if you try and drive through it, it's just going to keep exaggerating and getting worse. You literally have to just slow down, get back online, and get going. And I know we harp on this, but in these cars, we're by design are a little underpowered. They're huge momentum cars. You do that, especially if you're going down into the S's, you're just going to be dirt slow all the way through that huge steep climb up through turn 5 up into 6. So precision here is everything.
Cars rolling off for their second pace lap tonight, 20 minutes. Again, on the horizon here. Track temp just shy of 100 degrees, low humidity. That's got to be nice for a change, I think. My first time ever, first and only time ever at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, it was about 90 degrees and 80% humidity. It was sticky out there. So thankfully, in the virtual world, you don't have to contend with that too much. But field heads up the hill toward. Hold on. I want to make an aside about that. iRacing, all the things that it models, the humidity factors into the power that the cars make. The air temperature factors into the power that the cars make. So a colder day in iRacing, your engine is making more power than a warmer day. That's just a level of detail, just one of many things that makes iRacing really one of the top dogs when it comes to sim racing.
It's fantastic. And you remember, though, and not that these cars have massive aero, but when it's cooler and the air is denser, that means your aero is more effective. But in these cars where there's not a lot of aero, it means they have that little bit of extra power, but guess what? They're also a little more draggy because the air is more dense, so you have to push through denser air. There's always this little trade-off in all of this, and you hope that the extra power in the engine, just that little bit outweighs the extra drag you get on a car that's got lots of aero in it. Sometimes the gain you get through the engine is just still the aero drag becomes really fierce here. So it's always these little trade-offs, and that's part of what makes this sport so exciting is, just the level of variance, Kyle, is virtually unlimited.
Starting lineups on the left-hand side of the screen. Jorge Ortiz wins, I think, his first ever race in the series, and he will line up alongside Camden Hibbett here. Hibbett got caught up with the 77 of Josh Soto last time around. He'll learn from that mistake, Greg. Even with a big push from Caleb Patry on the back straightaway and a little bit of co-opetition there, they weren't able to run Jorge down from 6.5 tenths back leaving turn 7. So that's a critical number. 6 tenths back or more, you're not going to catch someone from turn 7 down to turn 10A. So Camden knows that he's got to keep the gap smaller than that next time around.
And once again, he's got an opportunity here to really do some damage in terms of the points. So, he's got to, he needs to finish near the front and really, keep getting as many points as he can. But just how much risk do you take? We're about to find out. Barney throws the green. We're at it here. And Jorge Ortiz, man, he timed that beautifully. It looked like he got a nice little run, but look at the momentum of Hibbett using the outside line. It's not going to be enough. He tucks back in with Caleb Patry sitting right there in third. Trace Hance up into fourth. And the guy I'm going to keep an eye on here is we've got somebody running wide off at the exit of turn 1. That's Diffenbach, okay. But the guy that I'm going to be intrigued with here is going to be Piatek. He showed so much pace coming from dead last up into 6th in that first race. He's already 5th.
Yeah, he's going to be a man on a mission, as so is Deacon Greenfield. He got caught up in a minor incident in the last race, up to 9th in the start of this one. We'll see how much ground he can make up. Up the road, Olivier Piatek was side by side with, that was Trace Hance he was door-to-door with. Piatek will win that fight up to 4th place behind Patry, Hibbett, and Ortiz.
Yeah, he is wasting no time going straight to the
Spin,
front
crash,
here.
turn 7.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's such a key corner, and I think that's Pasquarello. Pasquarello, yeah, there's Rocco. So he is out of it. What happened here? Oh, and he got center punched by Wozencroft.
Yeah, the 133 Alarin was also involved, and I think Pasquarello, going to dive in there, just got it too late on the brakes. I think he was trying to miss him. And then just a couple other cars pile in there. That's Spolman as well.
Just had too much pace into 7. I think you're absolutely right. It was less an attempt to pass and more an attempt not to hit. And look at this now, as Piatek decided to go out to the outside behind the red car of Caleb Patry, and just that quick, Trace Hance dives down to the inside, catches that curb though, unsettles the car a little bit. Well, this is going to make turn 1 interesting as Hibbett now comes through, and Hibbett should be pretty much by himself through here. Here's the battle, Kyle, up the hill. They're still side by side, and it's 2 rows deep. Look at this. And
can they sort it out here at turn 3? We've seen a lot of times. Oh, Hance took a big chunk of curb trying to leave Piatek enough room on the outside, and it worked. So they're still side by side for 4th as Ortiz, Patry, they get it sorted. Still door to door. How are they doing this?
This is unbelievable, and here's where Piatek really should be, and he does, just drifts across, and that's going to open it up, and Newell getting a tremendous run as he was able to just slice through on Hance. Now he gets a little hit from behind by Rice Puto, trying to move up through turn 6 here. Here we go, side by side. You don't want to be side by side through here.
Gilliland, Soto
making a run too here, yeah.
8th and 9th, and then Deacon Greenfield in 10th. It's a little ways back there to find Dean Dibdall in 11th. Really, it's a 10-car breakaway, but Camden Hibbett has put 7/10 of a second on Jorge Ortiz, but something tells me that Patry is not going to let Hibbett get away with this. He might push and shove that 311 back to Camden Hibbett if he has anything to say about it.
I think so too, and I don't know whether Camden, was thinking about after that first race, maybe the best defense here is a good offense is just go and see if you can make a break here. But I just think, Kyle, when you're on your own and there's two, 3 guys running line of stern behind you at this track, it's so tough to make that break stick.
Yeah, that gap was 7/10 of a second. Now it's 4. At the end of the straightaway. So
but look at this top 3 breakaway now too.
Yeah, Piatek might have the pace to get back to them, but he's 1.2 back, so he's out of the draft. It's going to rely on those front 3 fighting a bit. If they stay nose to tail, I'm not sure that without some assistance from Newell and Hance, he'll be able to match their pace.
Yeah, but I think that all came from that move by Trace Hance up into 3, where he literally got sideways, trying to make sure that he gave Piatek room. And then they were side by side for a long period, and side by side, neither of you is running the ultimate fastest line, and the guys in front who aren't scrapping, they are, and you get this kind of a gap.
Piatek did take about 2/10 out of that in the first sector as Ortiz is offline a little ways. He's caught Hibbett. 15 minutes to go, so we are basically a quarter of the way through this one, and the last race went by really fast, it felt like. 12 laps around here isn't really that many, so you don't get that many opportunities down here into 10A.
Yeah, and one of the things, this track just so quick, you are just always on. That's why I talk about being so mentally taxing this track is you're just, you're in traffic, you're racing, changing direction. There's really no moment for a little breather as Ortiz straight lines to the apex, but there's that counter move by Hibbett, but Ortiz able to get it just enough of a run off of that corner where Hibbett now is going to be on the outside, and he's got an opportunity, though, to pinch Ortiz a little bit, not let him run out. And as soon as Ortiz does that, it's going to scrub a little bit of momentum. Let's see how it plays out.
Well, everybody 4th on back is pretty stoked that these 3 are racing like this because it brings Piatek right back into the mix. Side by side through 1. That's a tough line to hang on to, but Hibbett keeps a foot in it and still has overlap into turn 3. But just, now he's clear.
Yeah, and Ortiz finally able to come through and shut that down. But as you said, Piatek now is there. Newell is almost there as well, and the rest of the pack. So, yeah, it's just that little bit of side by side, and this is going to change the dynamic completely right now. And right now, Rice Puto, he's less than 2 seconds adrift of Ortiz, with Hance another 7/10 back. But here we go again. Hibbett now into turn 6, interesting, taking a look to the inside. And I wonder if this is a little bit of exploration by Hibbett, trying to figure out, can I make this work? And the only reason he might be able to here is a guy named Patry went with him.
Yeah, and I don't know that he'll think that was worth it, because look at what it did to the field behind him. It bottled everybody up, and the pressure is building now. You don't want that on the last lap. You're probably going to want to save that pass for 10A, because the faster you get through 7, the harder it is for people to queue up behind you. He has assistance, though, in the form of Caleb Patry and Olivier Piatek, so it worked, but the proximity of those other cars is not going to be a benefit on the last lap.
Right, and look how late Ortiz is on the brakes. That gets him by Piatek, and he actually did a nice job getting through the corner, but you can see how much speed he carried in. He got through that, but he had to roll off it just a little bit, and suddenly Piatek has that overlap, and look at Hibbett again. Suddenly he's up over half a second, just that fast, Kyle.
It's amazing how quickly things ebb and flow here, and how close Ortiz and Piatek were in turn 12. They're going to do it again here at turn 1. That curb jump is going to push the 311 to the rumbles, and once you drop your left sides over the curb, as Soto did, you have to get out of the throttle, or it's a quick ride to the tire bundles at the exit of 1.
Yeah, that, the minute you drive, as you said, I mean, look at that gap that's immediately appeared in front of Soto, and Rice-Puto is just glommed onto him at this point. And then you can see there's Newell, then Hans, there's Gilliland, and Greenfield. So a very familiar top 10 here for sure. And they're having a really stout battle as they come out, as hop on board with Andrew.
He's had a really good night tonight. 6th place in race 1, top 10 here in race 2, and just sitting in the catbird seat for when the Lions start to fight up here at the front, I suppose.
And doing a really nice job, I think, of absorbing and learning here as well. This now, he's been, as you said, 6th, racing with some really fast guys in that first race, staying right with them, and I think learning an awful lot. Trace Hans has had a lot of success already this year in real world racing. He struggled a little bit in this series, a lot of it because he's been taken out of events because he hasn't been able to get the qualifying done, but he's got the pace. But a great opportunity for Andrew, and he's making the most of it. But Hibbett, this whole lap has continued to hang on to that lead to the 2.5 a second or more. He's doing a really nice job here.
And he's dragging the field along with him, and Piatek knew that he had to push Caleb Patry. There was no other option. If he raced the 998, they'd lose time to Hibbett and be out of the draft range. So they are just clinging to hope here, as Hibbett is now putting a distance on him that I would consider threatening, because as soon as he goes a little further than this, Greg, you can't draft back. Whoa, split too wide there, and Ortiz takes 3rd.
I couldn't believe, I could see Piatek defending because Ortiz has shown a willingness to stick a nose in, but I thought Piatek had played that perfectly, and Ortiz somehow squared up right there and didn't lose momentum on his way up the hill. That was absolutely spectacular by Ortiz, and it's even let now Newell through as well. So just an incredible run by these guys.
Yeah, that was pretty dicey. Court Schmidt is down on pit lane. I think he has had an incident. Let's see if we can find. No. Well, he did have an incident. You see the damage to the tailpipes of that car, but where?
Yeah.
He already had it, so I won't waste time to go try to find it, but he hits pit lane for repairs.
Yeah, it's a shame, obviously. And we had talked about him, and now, he'd opened that margin up. Well, now Patry, on his own, is closing that down just a little bit because he's in that 6/10 mode you talked about. He's within that, so he's got a little draft.
It's important that he stays with Hibbett here, because if he falls back to Ortiz, he might be out of it. So he's kind of the bridging car between the rest of the pack and the leader, Camden Hibbett. He's in a very important position, and with great power, Greg, comes great responsibility up here.
Absolutely, and man, did he get through 10A and 10B well, as we just passed halfway in this one, and that margin now is non-existent. Boy, he gets a really good run down the hill. Does he decide to do anything with it, or is he just going to give him a little bump and say, let's see if we can make a break here? And he opts for the ladder there. And boy, I'll tell you, they're almost a second clear of Ortiz in 3rd. It's about as big a gap as we've seen up front.
Yeah, definitely the 132 has hit his stride. And like I said, he's pulling the field along with him. He's not blockading them and creating that stack up that creates a lot of complication and chaos. This is going to string the field out, but it's also going to reduce the number of cars that have a shot at this win. And Patry is really in the best spot of anybody at the moment. Ortiz and Piatek could get there, but I don't know that Newell and Rice Budo are going to have much of a shot unless they clean this up quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, you can see Newell there running so wide at the exit of 5. He actually got into the gravel trap just a little bit. And, that just sucks down a little bit of that momentum. When you run through that gravel, it's like walking on a beach. It's tough to do, and it'll drag it down. Let's give a shout out here to Jordan Ricks at Greeny, starting way at the back, up into 12th, just outside of that top 10 right now. There he is, but he has a lot of work to do to move up more. You can see how big the gap is in front of him at this point, but still in all, he's doing everything he can to try and score some points. And Rice Budo, he salvaged something in that first race, Kyle, and he's in that top 6 right now. So he's stemming the flow just a little bit, but if Hibbett wins, this is going to be so close going into VIR.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate for the 108 because he crashed last week in the non-points race, and I thought he'd have a chance to right the ship. And he was in a great position, and the crash that happened between him and Rice Budo wasn't intentional, nor was it really malicious at all. It was just an accident.
No.
And that's a bad time to have it happen because he had no opportunity to make up any ground after he crashed, and thus it kind of bled over into the second race too.
Well, and I think it was just one of those, as you put it, miscalculations. Obviously not intentional at all. And I'll tell you, for just a little bit here, for everybody up front, their best friend was Trace Hans, because he snuck in front of Jorge Ortiz, who we've seen be just superbly aggressive here, but he couldn't stay in front of him. And so Ortiz is going to be back at it. But how about the drive being put in right now by the 123 of James Newell, that Barbie car right behind Piatek. Piatek, the green car, sits in 3rd, Newell in 4th, points leader Rice Budo right there in 5th.
A very strong night for the 123, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And Piatek.
Piatek a little wide.
Yeah, he's lost some ground, and so it's effectively just Patry and Hibbett for the top spot, and they have completely driven out. It feels like they're halfway to South Carolina now. They're just completely gone. And so I think the rules of engagement are going to change from 3rd on back. I don't think there's much hope in catching those leaders unless they crash, so you might as well race at this point. Here comes that 123.
Yeah, absolutely. Get after it at this stage. And here comes Rice Budo. Gets around the 123. And again, from way, way back comes Ortiz. And I had thought maybe he had just overrun his tires. And here again now, Newell just losing a little bit of momentum. And up the inside in that blue car with the iRacing logo on the front is the 53 of Trace Hand. So just that quickly, Newell goes from, I think we had him in 5th, back into 7th. So the tides turn here in a hurry, as you said.
Other battles deeper in the field. How about Sawyer Richards in the 125 and Wayne Buttermore? This is all the way back for 18th place. This is the closest fight on the track.
Yeah, these guys are doing an absolutely superb job right now. Just as you said, covered by next to nothing. They do have a little bit of space. Buttermore's pretty clear at this stage too. So just having a really, really good scrap here. Great to see for these guys. And again, that's what's great about this championship. Even if you're well down, the order, you find somebody and you're just racing them fiercely.
Out front, it's half a second between Patry and Hibbett. There's some lap traffic on the horizon. I don't think it'll be much of a challenge for these drivers to navigate, but been wrong about that before. 5 minutes left on the clock. We'll be coming next time to 3 laps to go.
And, just give this a thought. 3rd to 10th right now is covered by 3 seconds. I mean, it's really an 8-car train, and there's a little bit of a gap back to Andrew Gilliland, and then just behind him, too, remains, I think that's Deacon Greenfield, perhaps.
Yes.
These guys having a good scrap.
So Soto is the second car in this group, and then it's Greenfield, Dibdahl, Gilliland, 9th, 10th, 11th. Soto had a run on James Newell, but backed out. Now he's got Greenfield right up the rear tailpipes on the run down through turn 12.
Oh, man, I thought Soto was going to turn in and Dibdahl was going to collect him. And some great track awareness there by Soto to not turn in. But it's just enough to let Dibdahl slice through. Soto going to try and brave it around the outside. Dibdahl drifts across, covers that just a little bit. But here comes Greenfield up to the inside of Soto. And elects the better of that. and decides to fight another corner.
Love watching the hand go down and grab a gear. Grab a gear and disappear, right, Greg?
Grab it. Yep. And hopefully doing the old heel and toe as well, keeping old school racing alive.
Oh, look out. Wow, Soto using all the road. I heard the gravel go sprinkling, and I looked over, and Soto was out in the dust. Wow. That
was a hell of a save. I remember flagging, this would have been 10 years ago for an MX5 Cup race. I was flagging in turn 5. There was a train of 6 cars battling for the lead, and the guy in third did exactly that, but couldn't quite get the save done. And when he bounded, as we're going to see here, look at that.
All 4 tires.
Yeah, unbelievable. And when the car landed, he couldn't quite save it. Nicked the wall, the car just turned sideways, and 4 cars behind him just went bang, 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 bang. It was a huge, huge hit. And what a move by Ortiz, trying to stay with it here. Wow, these guys are going cut and thrust, and now Piatek dives to the inside of Ortiz. This is all in the battle for third right now, that final podium spot. You called it. So we have 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go, Kyle. You said, might as well race. They heard you.
They're banging doors down the front stretch here. Side. Oh, there's more contact there. They had a little off into 10A, so I think now the elbows are getting out, and Piatek defends for third, and Raisputo and Hans slide up into 4th and 5th. A great night for that 53.
Really having a good run. And I think that was another one of those misjudgments you were talking about, Kyle, where the 311 of Ortiz thought he was clear.
Yeah.
Turned in and just tapped him, and it cost him dearly. He lost 2 spots as a result. But how about Caleb Patry? You know, we've been wondering, where has he been in terms of running at the front, showing the pace that we know he's got? He's back.
Now what? We're sitting second, a lap and a half to go. You're plotting, and so is Camden Hibbett. What do you do here, Greg? It's only these 2. So is there something at play here, or are they just both going to stay in this spot until 10A next time around?
Well, the other side of the coin is we saw Caleb, I think, be very, very sportsmanlike in not roughing up Camden in that previous race, knowing he's in the championship hunt here. Is Caleb just going to play a good tail gunner, or is he at this point going to say, yeah, sorry, buddy, I know you're going for a championship, but I need a win? It's going to be fun to see how that plays out here. Meanwhile, Raisputo thought about it. I think there was a little rub there, and it just scuffed off enough speed for him that he had to tuck back in behind Piatek in this battle for the final podium spot. White flag. Here we go, Kyle. Look at that margin.
Last 2.54 miles here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Hibbett and Patry lead by 3 seconds over the next group of cars. That third place battle is absolutely going to be fought tooth and nail all the way back to the checkers. But up at the front here, it's going to be one or the other unless they take each other out, and that is a distinct possibility.
Boy, both of them just massive curb hop there in turn 3. You do the curb a lot there, but that was really aggressive. So watch for the exit here of 5. They're throwing everything that they can here at this corner, and it looked like maybe Patry got a little bit more of that gravel here, but lap traffic up in front. Don't know if they'll catch him at an inopportune time. Here we go. Turn into that crucial turn 7. Hibbett, nice wide turn in, trying to get the power down as early as he can, and here comes the rest of this group.
Well,
Hibbett, he got a nice run out of there.
Last run up the back straightaway, Caleb Patry having a discontinuity there. That's going to hurt his draft for a moment. So as soon as he pops back in, he'll get back in behind the 132. I see the 03 Raisputo popping out of line, so they're going to be slamming doors down the back straightaway here, Greg. Last couple of corners. Who's going to win it here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta?
Patry down to the inside. Hibbett didn't expect it. Gave him some room, and then flicked it a little bit in turn 10B, and Patry had to give himself some room. And this is huge for Raisputo as Soto and Newell are getting gathered up. Raisputo needs this finish badly, but look at Piatek sweep the outside, and it's going to be Raisputo hanging on for his third spot and valuable points. And look at Rick Segrini in the grass coming across the line, and ends up as a result in that 9th spot. So he salvaged something. But for Camden Hibbett, how about that? Just a couple of great races, but look at this again here. Here's that battle here in this little bit. Well, you can see Soto threw it in there, and just enough speed. Then he got clipped as well. What a shame for Newell, who had such an incredible race going. And then watch Rick Segrini here as he's trying to get around Greenfield. He is going to be off the outside at turn 12. That is some sketchy stuff. I'm not sure that Deacon realized he was there. Yeah, I think that may have been a little netcode push.
Yeah.
I didn't see contact, but suddenly Rick Segrini's car just scooted. But wow, they understand the mission here, don't they?
They sure do.
These points, and for Camden Hibbett, what an evening for him, just in general, but in terms of the points.
Yeah, it's going to be a great night for him in the points. And looking back at the evening, second and first, almost maxed it out. And Rice Pudo was able to recover a third. So it's not going to be as big of a gain as Hibbett could have had. If Rice Pudo had crashed completely like the 108 did in that first race, maybe the calculus would be different. But either way, what an exceptional night of racing here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, as always. Here's a look at your race results here, Greg, and things got interesting up at the front of the field. But Hibbett and Patry first and second in race 2.
Yeah, and by a long chunk, almost 3 seconds clear. And Nicholas Rice Pudo, again, coming in as the points leader, having a finish outside of the top 5 in the first race. Needed points, got him with that great late race and got up into third. Trace Hance, really impressive. Olivier Piatek, fast as always. Ortiz, after winning the first race, struggled a little bit. I thought he was maybe a little over-aggressive on his tires, maybe in that second race. Maybe that hurt him a little bit. Dean Dibdahl, a quietly effective race up into 7th. Deacon Greenfield, a great run. Rick Segrini from way back in the pack up into 9th. He needed that. And another top 10 for Andrew Gilliland. Yeah,
that was a great run, a great night for Gilliland. 2 top 10s on the evening. James Newell, very impressive event tonight. Soto, Butler, and Jose de las Casas, they all didn't have the results I think they were hoping for, especially Soto getting tagged up in that crash at the tail end of the race. Richard Sawicki, Vaccaro, Buttermore, Friedhofer, Sawyer Richards, and Andrew Rosencroft, the rest of the top 20.
Yeah, and then here you can see the rest of the field here, and guys that had some issues in that race back just a little bit. And again, we need to say, James Newell had a great opportunity for a top 5 finish until he and Soto had that, got caught up in that incident. And that was a tough one for them too. But wow, some absolutely fabulous racing. And I got a question for you here, Kyle. That move that Caleb tried on Camden down into 10A, that looked very familiar to the move that Camden tried not once, and then he said foolishly tried again. That didn't work, and I wonder if Camden recognized that and said, I gotcha.
Yeah, classic over-under. It's not as straightforward at 10A, 10B at Road Atlanta as you think it would be. We learned that a couple of times. Let's talk to a couple of our podium finishers here this evening. Olivier Piatek, he did not grab a podium. He is waiting for us, though. See who else is up there. Nicholas Rice Pudo, he grabs a third. He is there. Race 1 didn't quite go to plan, Nicholas, but you grab a podium in race 2, so I would call tonight damage control, but it certainly turned out better than it could have after that contact with the 108. Take us through your evening.
Oh, it was a pretty frustrating evening, but it is what it is. So we'll see what we can do in this last round here.
Yeah, and I understand obviously your frustration. Coming in here for this event, 23-point lead, and having that problematic first race. But you got to be a little bit pleased with your drive in that second race to be able to come back. You had to battle with a huge group of cars there, and were able to, late in the race, bring it up to be able to grab that podium. Obviously you've still got the speed. You were up front until you had that problem in the first race. Just got to put the head down again, huh?
Yep. It's just gonna be another nail biter like last year. So I didn't want it to be that.
Yeah, obviously.
It's exciting for you guys, I guess.
Well, it is that. It is for us and for all, everybody watching live on YouTube for sure. I know you'd like it to be a lot less so, but if anybody can do this, you've shown the speed, the ability, the racecraft this year to do it. So I don't think there is anybody out there that is counting one Nicholas Rasputo out. Great comeback drive in the second race.
Thanks.
Hope you take some pleasure from that, bud.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
You
it,
bet.
Nicholas. Let's move on now to our second place finisher in race number 2. 2 podiums on the night, and that is got to be a refreshing return to form, Caleb. It has been a tough season at times, but tonight you turned it around and stole a third and a second. Just missed out on a win. Take us through your evening.
Yeah, well, it's great to be back up here. Yeah, obviously the first part of my season didn't exactly go my way. As it kind of alluded to in interviews past, this series gets tougher and tougher each season that goes by, and which makes it tougher and tougher to qualify up front, and then you're kind of stuck in the mid-pack where pretty much anything can happen. But yeah, tonight was good, qualified well. Definitely didn't really have the speed or consistency as some of those other guys up front, but was able to just kind of stay in the draft and just kind of play it smart. Avoided wrecks when I could. Yeah, and then just tried to give it my all and tried to set myself up to be there, or at least kind of fight for the win there in the last lap, and both times I just nearly missed it.
Well, first I got to start, Caleb, by saying I've been waiting to say this all season. Welcome back to the podium.
Well, thank you.
Great to have you. You're welcome, sir. Thank you. But in that second race here, last lap down into turn 10, did you think Camden had it covered correctly, or did you think, all right, I've got opportunity here? How are you reading that as you made your move?
I mean, my thought was, if I have the run and I'm close enough, I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. So I think he knew that he had quite a bit of a gap on me and didn't really have to defend, but I kind of saw an opportunity right at the last second, so I just sent it in there, but not too hard. I didn't want to, take him away from his corner. But yeah, he raced me clean, so it was a good little fight there to the finish.
Well, and in terms of racing clean, I just had this sense in that first race when you guys were duking for second that you gave him maybe a little bit more consideration than you might have otherwise. And my thought was, because he's in this points championship, were you being just a little extra careful that there wasn't contact?
I mean, kind of. I mean, obviously I'm out of points, so I don't really care what happens to me up here. I kind of want to go for it, but at the same time, I don't really want to screw up anybody else's battle up there. So I was just kind of playing conservative that first race. I knew there was a gap to Jorge in the lead, so I figured we had a better chance if I just pushed him most that way. But yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, well, it was a class act, and again, great to have you back on the podium. Not just one, but two. Well done. I can't wait to see what you pull out at VIR, man.
Well, thank you. I do enjoy VIR quite a bit, so hopefully have some good luck there too.
There you go. I love it.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thanks, guys.
And let's talk with Camden Hibbett, who steals a win here tonight. And Camden, you're right back on form where we expected you to be. And I've got one of my best friends hanging out with me. You had a really great race in that one. Almost drove away from the field. You were able to keep Caleb behind you. And was it something you learned last week that allowed you to defend that move into 10A, 10B?
Yeah, I definitely tried to get away. It's really hard with how good everybody in the series is, especially at a track that is this draft heavy like Road Atlanta. But yeah, definitely a little bit. I was playing around mid-race trying to see what the gap was to keep him behind me going into 10AB, to where he couldn't even get next to me. And I was about a tenth or two away from what I thought I needed on the final lap. So I knew I had to figure out something, and I knew that defending or racing for the win from the left side of that entry did not work at all last week. So I just held it right, let him outbrake himself a little bit, and then just kind of parked it on the exit or in the apex of 10B and just prevented the crossover. But yeah, awesome racing with Caleb. Nice to see him back up here. I know he has the pace as always, so it's really cool to see. But yeah, I'm excited for VIR. I think that put me back right in the championship battle, so excited for a championship finale at VIR.
Yeah, a win in a second. That's really stout points. But I got to ask, that move that Caleb tried looked, to me, really similar to the one that last week you said you tried once, it didn't work, and then you said I foolishly tried it again. That looked really similar to what Caleb had. So did you have a sense when he made that move that maybe you had him covered?
Yeah, I definitely had, like I said, I definitely had been in his position before, so I knew kind of what he was going through in that situation, if you will, and I was ready for him to send it deep on the brakes, and I knew if he went deep enough, I was just going to cross him over out of 10A, run around the outside of 10B, kind of like what Jordan did last week. But he didn't go quite as deep as I needed him to be able to do that. So I just kind of held it next to him and had the inside for 10B all the way to the run down the hill. And that worked out for me. Definitely took some of what I learned last week and this weekend in real life here and kind of put it towards race 2 win today.
Well, it was an absolutely great job. And, the other thing that I want to ask was last week, you said you learned from last week. Did having that race and having the way that it went for you, we were talking at the top of the show about that, maybe last weekend you were the big beneficiary just in terms of confidence, knowing now that you can run at the front like that. Did you come in here thinking, I can do this? I can really get this done?
Yeah, I definitely came in. I think I came into the season with more of an aggressive mindset, just because I feel like I proved that I had a pretty good amount of pace last season, just couldn't put the races together. And I kind of came into the season with I'm going to start being aggressive, but I also want to learn from the season and learn from some of the best in the business. And I think I did that for the majority of the year, got some consistent finishes, and now, like you said, the confidence is definitely high. I think I'm normally pretty humble, but I think I have enough pace every week to go race for the win, and I'm super happy to be able to say that. And I think everybody up in the top 10 has helped me get to that point, and I am super excited to get to go race for a championship next week in VIR. It's going to be an awesome race. My first win in the series came at VIR, so maybe we can go for the 4th win next week and go for a Season 4 championship.
Well, you know what? You are still humble because it ain't bragging if you can back it up. And you have done that. And it's been so fun to watch you make those progressions and steps. And now you find yourself in a position to go after a championship, as you said, to get some of the best in the business. Camden, phenomenal event here, phenomenal season, regardless of what happens next week. And just proud of you, man. I remember having our conversation at the Petit Le Mans last year.
Yeah.
And just from there to where you are now, just brilliant. And so happy for you, bud.
I appreciate it.
Next week.
I appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you guys for everything you do. I mean, I go back and watch them every week, and it's some of the best races to watch ever and some of the best calls. So thank you guys for everything you do for this series, and ready to go race for a championship next week. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, Kyle, I think I can speak for you. It's our pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks, Camden. Greg, what an exciting round here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. This has just been such a fun 2-week excursion out here to Brazelton, Georgia. This week it did count, though, so we're going to rack up the points and head to VIR next week. Paul Newman called it heaven on earth, but there's only one driver that will really get to call it that after the championship points are tallied.
That's true. And it to me, it's such a unique track because it presents as 3 different tracks, from start finish all the way to the snake. That's very technical. Then you've got that, other than the oak tree turn, you've got that section that's just high speed. And then you get to the roller coaster, and guess what? It's technical again. So it's a great place to determine a championship. It's also a track that requires great precision to drive. We're going to be talking a lot more about that as the time comes. So next Tuesday night, it all comes good. Now, as I said, if there's enough interest, and you just have to go to FullSendSims.com, go to Discord, let the Full Send Sims people know that you'd like to do have a school at VIR. They said if we get enough interest, we'll make it happen. So you can make it happen for this Thursday night. And again, speaking of Full Send Sims, massive thank you to Court and his vision for this series and everything that's unfolding. And again, this new development of them becoming a sponsor on the Victor Gonzalez race team cars, just incredible. There you see it. What a fabulous development for them as they continue to expand their presence. And of course, our other sponsors, they are such good ones here. And we just need to say massive thank you to Final Turn Motorsports and 3P Logistics, both of them with us from the very get-go. And a massive thank you to them, and of course to Wine Country Motorsports as well. So it is just fantastic. Cannot wait for next Tuesday night and the final 2 races of our final event, Virginia International Raceway. Thanks so much for joining us once again. For Kyle Heyer and Finian DeCuna, it is Greg Creamer saying thanks for joining us. We can't wait to see you until next Tuesday. And until then, take good care, everybody.